Here, and I should probably start these meetings like 15 before the hour, but I get off work at anywhere between 12:15 and 12:30. So sometimes I'm running a little behind. So, and yeah, if if anyone yeah, a coffee refill. Here's what Daryl says. So if someone wants to look at the chat, sometimes I'm bad at that because once I go full screen, it's hard for me to look at that. But um, yeah, if someone wants to kind of look at that and raise your hand or let me know if you find a good point in asking questions, please do. But this one's about the same, like about 30 slides. So all right, let me get this thing started here. And we will go off to the races here. Slide song. Start first slide. All right, so everyone can see that, I hope. Okay. All right, so of course, I'm Nathan Russell. Everyone knows me by N9BBM. I work at WBBM as a broadcast engineer. So I do engineering full time there, and then obviously I've been a ham radio operator since 2005. Don't ask me what class I am because I'm bare bones at the bottom, technician. I live downtown in the Loop in Chicago, so it's hard for me to do anything HF. So I've never been motivated to really upgrade. And I used to live out of a suitcase running TV trucks and building TV facilities as a system integrator. So that's why I've never really upgraded. And then, of course, I'm the education coordinator for Chicago FM Club. We have a lot of faces within our club here and some not. So we don't, just like the Nets, we don't care about club affiliation. In fact, I sent this invite to Stars down south in Blue Island, and I sent the 220 guys. So I'm hoping to get some people from all over. In fact, we had Casey 2 weeks ago from North Shore give us a really good rundown on Arden, amateur radio emergency data network. So it's kind of really cool how we can pick different people from different clubs, just send out the invites, and it's an open forum. So these typically run between 30 minutes all the way up to 2.5. So I'm paying for Zoom out of my own pocket, so we can do that. We're not capped at an hour or whatever the time is. All right, so here are the things that we're going to cover: the history of hypervisors and virtualization, the types, the existing products, what's out there now. We're going to compare the advantages and disadvantages. It was really tough to find all the disadvantages. A lot of companies are doing this. And then we're going to talk about the future of hypervisors and virtualization. So, and I'm not the only techie guy here. I know we have several people here on the call that can kind of weigh in on how their company, you don't have to mention the company, but how your organization, wherever you work at, if you're doing virtualization, what's your story? So let's talk about what it is. It's a separation of a resource or request for a service from an underlying physical delivery of that service. So when we think of a traditional computer, it's got hardware and it's got operating system, and you marry the two, and that's all you typically do. So the concept is basically a piece of hardware that can be coordinated for multiple guest operating systems. So I built a machine that I'm going to show you, not physical, obviously, because it's not here. It's in the neighboring state of Missouri. But I will show you the GUI. I will show you the virtual machines that are running on the system and how I access them. And it's all free. Proxmox doesn't cost anything. So you can kind of see how it works. Now, I recently just bought a Mac. It's got the M3, not the M4. I bought it too early to get the M4, but I use Parallels on it, which is another type of virtualization to run Windows 11 ARM inside of it. So we all know ham radio folks have to have Windows. We do. When you buy a commercial rig, you're not going to run that on Mac OS. So we live in a Windows world when it comes to some of that stuff. So I can show you the parallels too in case you've ever seen it. So before it was a single OS per machine, software and hardware were tightly coupled together. Of course, there's a possibility of always underutilizing your resources. And then you have the inflexibility. And what I mean by that is if I need an extra 8 gigs of RAM, I just go in, turn off the machine, click, 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 hit apply, done, turn it back on. And I automatically have 8 gigs of RAM. If my computer's capped with 4 DIMM slots and I've already populated them, there's a physical limitation there. So the flexibility, I think, is what really is an advantage of virtualization. There's hardware independence of the operating system or applications. And then you have the ability to encapsulate operating systems and applications into VMs. So, and you can provision these really fast. When I'm wiring something at the TV station, I wish I had the ability, if it was software as a service or if it was a particular server OS I was running, if we had a massive virtual system, I could provision that immediately. But we're putting in a new switcher, which we're cutting over to in 2 weeks. We're still on bare bone servers. So if the servers are not there physically, we don't have that architecture. We have to wait on it. So, all right. So this kind of shows you the benefits between traditional architecture on the left, applications, operating system, and then obviously the bare metal, the server it's running on. And then on the right, it shows you how you can have multiple operating systems with different applications running in the OS, and then the virtual layer, and then the hardware. So what's really cool is I can run Windows and Linux on the same machine that I recently built. And I can add another operating system. But traditionally, on the left-hand side for the architecture, you're typically only running one operating system, and then your applications get installed in that operating system. So let's talk about the history real fast. IBM, everyone knows it. IBM has a real rich history here in Chicago in the Loop, right? Every time I smoke a cigar, I walk right by that building, right, from the 70s down by the Corn Cob, the Marina Towers. So they developed CP/CMS in 1967, and their goal was time-sharing systems for mainframes. My brother, his first IT gig, he's a computer programmer, was at Atlas Van Lines, and I lived in the headquarters of Atlas Van Lines in Evansville, Indiana. And at that time, my brother was, let's see, he would have been a senior in college. It would have been 2003, I want to say. And they had a mainframe, IBM mainframe in 2003, and that bad boy had been running for like 2 decades. They never touched it; it just worked. So I share that story because I've never seen a mainframe. Like I didn't know, never seen it, but my brother was describing it to me. So in 1972, the Z series line came out, which basically featured virtualization. And then in 85, the PRSM hypervisor was built, and you could manage local partitions, i.e., you've got the IBM logo there. So, and then we have these other manufacturers, Sun Microsystems, HP, SGI joined the hypervisor market, and it started selling software around 2000. So virtualization is not really a new thing. It's been around for quite some time, but now as companies, especially in my space, when we're, the broadcast space where we're consolidating media, and there's just one hub for all of the graphics for CBS wherever it's located at. It just makes sense to have these companies virtualize. So there's two types of classifications. Type 1, which is known as native or bare metal hypervisor, and then there's also type 2, and that's also called hosted hypervisor. So type 1, type 2. Not very hard to remember. Type 1, it runs directly on the host's hardware to manage guest operating systems. It does not require any base server operating OS, direct access to hardware resources. It offers better scalability and performance and stability. Hardware support is limited, but that's essentially a type 1. And that's a little blurry. I'm not drunk. That's a little blurry, but you can tell here with a hypervisor, you've got the hardware, right? The CPU, memory, all of that. Type 1 here with the guest operating systems like that. And then there's the type 2. It's hosted by the main operating system. It's essentially a operating system that then runs all of your OSs inside of it. It gives you better compatibility with hardware, and it does a little better as far as overhead for performance. And that's what this one looks like. So you have your hardware, the server, then you have the native OS like Proxmox. It's basically running on Debian, and then you go from there. So we can actually classify type 1 hypervisors into two more categories, and they're listed here. Monolithic, which hosts the hypervisor as a VM or VMM in a single layer, and that includes most of the components like the kernel, device drivers, and the IO stack. Anyone that knows, I mean, Windows technically has a kernel too, but anyone that deals with Linux day in, day out, you know what a kernel is, and you know what and if you're Windows user, you know what a kernel panic attack is, right? When you get a BSOD, blue screen of death, which yeah, that what was it, a year ago when CrowdStrike decided to push their update, and it literally bricked 90% of TV stations in our group. So, and then you have a microkernel kernelized, so it uses a thin specialized hypervisor that performs the core tasks. So virtualization stack and hardware specific device drivers are located in those partitions. I think I have a logo. I have a little drawing here that shows you the monolithic versus the kernelized hypervisor. So I'm a visual guy. My mother always told me, she's got 5 college degrees, something in teaching, I think. She always told me, Nathan, when you build a presentation, add different things. So I'm a visual learner, she tells me. So there you go. All right, so there's multiple techniques for virtualization, full virtualization, and you have this next one, parallel virtualization, also known as OS assisted, and then there's a hardware assisted accelerated virtualization or hardware virtual machine. So all of these names, it seems like every manufacturer has their own, not trademark, but their own positioning statement like that. So full virtualization is completely abstracted from the hardware or the virtualization layer. The guest OS is unaware that it is a guest, right? The hypervisor translates all the OS calls on the fly, and there's no hardware assistance or modification. So it gives you greater flexibility. And that's what this one looks like here. So, yeah, there you go. And green, we're what, 99 days away from Christmas, I think. Paravirtualization is efficient, and it's a lightweight technique. It calls for API, and anyone that knows what an API is, application programming interface. So it's a way to talk from one piece of gear to another. So in my world, we still wire up physical GPIOs, general purpose inputs and outputs, right? And with an API call, I could basically talk, if I want something here to happen here without a physical contact closure, I could use an API that says, hey, open up TCP port 80. We all know what that is. It's the internet, right? And it calls for it. It says, hey, I'm listening. And then what you do is when I reach out on port 80, do whatever I want you to do. Fly in the graphic, fly out the graphic. Tell everyone, hey, you're under a tornado warning. We do it all the time. So that's what an API does. It doesn't require virtualization extensions from the host CPU. And of course, guest and control domains require kernel support and drivers. So this one gives you a little more near native performance, right? And that's what this one looks like. And I'll make this PDF available like I always do with the recording once it gets done transcoding. And then there's hardware-assisted virtualization. So it enables efficient full virtualization using help from hardware, primarily from the host processors. So unmodified guest OS, no API calls. And it's interesting, and this is where I was telling you how different manufacturers have their Hyper-V, or in this case, the VTX or AMD-V. When you build a machine and you want to turn on virtualization in the BIOS, you're going to have to know what their verbiage is, right? And that's part of the marketing behind it. And that kind of gives you an idea of what hardware-assisted virtualization is right there. So there's all three of them together, and that's really blurry. I'm looking at this on a 32-inch. You guys are here. I'm looking at this over here on a 32-inch monitor. It did not look like that when I built this. So, okay. Well, I'm laughing at myself. So let's talk about the leading hypervisors. There's VMware. Everyone's heard of VMware ESX and ESXi. Of course, Microsoft has their Hyper-V. And then I can't say that word today. Citrix Systems, they have Zen Server. Then for the Type 2, something that you would probably run at home, like what I'm running now, VMware Workstation, Oracle, VirtualBox is not bad. You've got Microsoft Virtual PC, and then of course Parallels Desktop, which yeah. So when I bought this Mac 2 weeks ago, I put VirtualBox on there because I really didn't want to pay for it. And Windows did not run well with Windows 11 ARM, so I gave that up and I went back to Parallels. And it's been rock solid too. So let's talk about the advantages of virtualization. Why would a company want to do it? Why would an individual like me want to do it? Well, you can consolidate all of your hardware resources. Think about my equipment room, my central equipment room or rack room or whatever you want to call it. We're going to do a tour at WBBM soon. We haven't picked a date, and we've had a lot of capital projects going on, but it'll be on a Saturday. You guys can come into the rack room and you're going to see how many servers we have. Okay? How many servers do we have? Can you imagine all those servers that have 2 power supplies? They might have 4. My video router has 6, right? So think about all the power and power supplies that need to be checked on a weekly basis or monthly, or maybe they never get checked. I mean, we've got a pretty old facility. I can tell you that I walk in every morning looking for problems, beeping, flashing red lights when a hard drive goes dead. So you've got all those hardware resources that most people don't think about. You want redundancy. You want high availability. You really don't want your server to go down. And when you can consolidate all those resources, like our play-to-air servers that actually literally popped up the video that you guys watched during our newscast, go back to circa 2015. Those are 10-year-old servers. So when you can consolidate some of that into virtualization, you don't have to worry about, hey, what's my 5-year plan to replace this old shit? Or when it breaks, well, let's face it, not a lot of companies are spending money to replace old gear. They just let it fail. Well, this is where one of the advantages of that is. I've got 3 different KVM systems in my facility. Yay! So when weather calls me, I have to go to the German KVM, ISHE. Excuse me. Oh, but then if it's the other system, then I have to go to the Avicent, and then I have to go to the Raritan. Wow, if they were all virtualized, I would just log into one control system, now wouldn't I? Now, some of us are laughing because you've been there. You've done that. You're going, wow, can you imagine when you get the phone call at 2 a.m. and you have to go in early and you have to think, where is that server physically located? Number one, my rack room's not that big, but it is big. Then you got to think about which KVM does it reside on. And KVM, in case you don't know what a KVM is It's basically a keyboard video mouse system that gets hooked up to each and every server and computer in your CER. And it gives you console access as if I was sitting in front of it. So you have user stations that are throughout your facility. So if you were to just virtualize your plant, you would have one less thing to worry about. So less hardware, energy and power savings, right? Excuse me. And then fault tolerance through clustering. So what you can do is you can build two identical systems where you can have a system running over here. And if you're going to do planned maintenance while it's still running, you can put it from the X system to the Y system and migrate it over. And your end user has no clue that it's either sitting on X or sitting on Y. Now, what does that cost to do that? That's not cheap. And if you're going to do it at the consumer level, like me, you're gonna, some hypervisors work better at that than others. Some of them require you to stop the server before you transfer it. So I messed around with XCP. It was another good one that I really liked. And then I looked at Proxmox, and I'll show you what I like about it. But yeah, so you can have imagine two VM systems running hypervisors, and they can actually, share resources like that. So you can really build this however you want to with clustering. It's pretty cool. And then I've discussed this a lot. Ease of deployment and management. When the sales department says, "Hey, we're ready to put this on the air," well, if you can just spin it up and you're right there in a virtual environment, you don't have to wait on hardware. Most hardware doesn't come with an operating system with it anyway. And then you have to license the operating system that they want to use. I mean, it's just, and don't even get me started on opening up firewall rules. That takes an extra 6 days too. Oh, in 24, we'll have it done in 24 hours. Okay, well, they wanted this like today. And then a year from now, guess what? They're going to close that firewall ticket and they're going to turn off the firewall. So you're going to have to reestablish what you just did with your InfoSec team. So yeah, when you work for a much bigger company and security is first and foremost, most important, when you can have a little more control as an individual in your rack room, that's the beauty of some of these. So better use of hardware. So I can actually push the CPU. If I need 2 extra sockets, I go in, I bump it up, I hit apply and start it again. And I'll show that to you. You get real-time metrics on everything that's happening. I can look at everything from usage of RAM, CPU usage, uptime. I can see utilization as total per machine that I'm running virtually, or the total proc. So it's kind of cool. I'm not really a statistics type of guy because I hate math, but it's kind of cool to look at that and say, maybe I should add an extra 2 gigs of RAM on that. So it allows you to scale your system from small today, big tomorrow, right? What's the old saying? You always, you should always try to under promise and over deliver. Well, if you buy a big enough hypervisor, you can start small, but you've got headroom to grow. High availability, right? I can't afford on my shift with 6.5 or 7 hours of news in an 8-hour period. For me, I can't afford to have that server go down. Why? We've cut so many jobs in this industry. It takes one person now to do what 6 or 7 or 8 people used to do. So if that server goes down, we have no one to run graphics, no one to run audio, no one to literally shade cameras. I mean, it gets ugly. I'm talking about my industry. So if you spend more money where it matters, i.e. with technology, when the big one happens, the Daytona 500, right? 30 of your 40 cars get crashed. If you have high availability, you build it right in the beginning, you won't have to worry about that. Also, look like I told you, 2/3 of our rack room is end of life. It's end of life. If I turn off that server, I don't know if those servers will come back up. And people don't understand that. Okay, you don't like your doctor. Okay, go get another doctor. You get, this is what you get. This is your time slot. So it can become it can become Russian roulette. Most people don't understand that. So you have to ask yourself, is it really broken? Is it really dead? And then you can turn it off. But if it's still halfway function, you probably don't want to power cycle that. And then software installation is really easy. I love Linux. I know that we live in a Windows world, right? Active Directory, right? My username is my first initial, my last name, followed by a bunch of numbers. I get it. I get it. But I like Linux because I can do installations over SSH, right? Over port 22 internally. And I can build 8 different machines and fire off of all of them at the same time. And you can do that on Windows too, obviously with PowerShell. But yeah, give me a Debian box with no desktop environment, no X Windows, and I can get in and out of that real quick. So software installation is really, really easy, and I'll show that to you here in a second. So I told you there were more advantages than disadvantages. Um, Server consolidations, VMs tend to consume more CPU memory and require greater disk I/O bandwidth. So can you imagine if you had a humongous SAN or NAS, network attached storage? You're definitely looking at I/O there, right? Back in the day, iSCSI was big in my world. I can remember my first television station, and this was in Podunk, Evansville, Indiana, Henderson, Kentucky, to be exact, crossing the money saving bridge. We were the first station in like 2002 to go nonlinear, no tape, no beta SP. And we had 2.5 terabytes of storage on our SAN. And I remember they were 3.5-inch SCSI drives. And that DVC Pro 25, which was all SD video at like a data rate of like 25 megabits per second, we could only hold like 140 hours, 140 hours of video on that system. And you think about that, that was 20 years ago. And now you look at the plant that I work in now, and it's like, holy moly, it's crazy how much disk I/O it took, and it still does take. So one of the things I will warn you with some of these hypervisors, if you decide to build something in your house, SSDs don't always play nice. You know what I mean? You really have to look at the hardware that you have and the requirements for your individual project and really look at it. And as Petra and I were talking about HTs, it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to read. Sometimes you'll build a system and go, you know what? I should have built Intel over AMD. But one thing's for sure, um, I I like to tinker. And the great thing about ham radio is it brings all of us together with different professional disciplines, and we can all learn from each other. So virtualization is something that I've been doing for close to 6 or 7 years now, and it's been fun. It's been fun. It's definitely. And now I used to have a clustered system, and then I learned with XCP I had to shut down one system to do a live migration. I was like, you know what, that's just too complicated. So I just built one system. But yeah, there's so many things that you can do with virtualization, but also the pool of people that we have on these lunch and learns. We all come from different walks of life and different experiences. So with that said, I open it up for questions. And let me show you. Let me show you. This is the problem with me. I'm getting ahead. Let me show you what we've got here. All right. Let's share this one. All right. This over a little bit. All right. So can I go full screen, Nathan? There we go. All right. So this is, everyone can see this? Okay. So this is Proxmox. It's a virtual environment. It's type 2, obviously. So this is basically a Debian operating system. And you can actually go to Proxmox and download this. It's free. They have other software too. But this is essentially the machine that I built. It's got 12 CPUs. It's clocked at like 5 gig at the top. I put 128 gigs of RAM in it, and I've got 2 terabyte hard drive that runs the OS Proxmox. And then and that's an M.2 SSD. And then I put a 4 terabyte SATA 2.5 in it. So this is what it looks like. And I've got 3 machines running on this. And most people will tell you, if you're a Linux expert, back in the day, you always try the swap. Swap is kind of like the Windows page file. Most people would tell you that if you had 4 gigs of RAM, you want double the swap. Well, that's not really the case anymore. Swap was mostly used for hibernation. If you have a machine and you want to hibernate to go from work back to home, it would store all of your temp files and swap. Well, you can tell right here, this swap space is only using 8 gigs. So I've got 3 virtual machines running as we speak. I'm using 14% of 12 CPUs. RAM utilization is only 16 gigs. I have 124. Hard drive space, I'm right at 8 gigs. So I just wanted to show you what the server load is, what the network traffic is, and all of these statistics. I'm going to call this the status page. You can actually right here, you can go from your averages to your daily. It's these, all of this criteria you see here, you can actually change based on what you're saying. So take this like a grain of salt. Trust me, I'm sure some of these statistics will peak when things are in heavy use. So basically, this is when you first install Proxmox. This is what it looks like, and this kind of gives you an idea. So over here on the left-hand side, you can actually create a container. You can create a VM, create a virtual machine. You can also do a bulk start, stop, suspend, or shut down on all of these. So I'll show you one that I've got running right now. Anyone can partake in this. This is a disclaimer, a future presentation. We'll do something on public broadcast exchanges, PBXs. I actually built one, and I'm waiting for Kevin's phone to not act stupid so we can add him to it. But so here's a free PBX server that I built. This one's running on 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM. I think I did the first hard drive of 100 gigs. So when I click on hardware, you can actually see all the things here. And if I add another drive or I added something to the PCI Express bus, I could come in here and automatically add resources, a second hard drive, a CD-ROM drive. I could add an EFI disk if I wanted a different boot sequence, a USB device. If I plug in a micro SD card reader like I have here, and I want that to be accessible in this machine, you plug it in, you assign it, you're good to go. So audio devices, hell, we got a lot of DB9 serial 232 and 422 at the station, so that shit's not going anywhere. So you can still use that on this guy. So you can do snapshots. So what a snapshot is, if typically if I get a virtual environment installed, call it vanilla. I haven't done anything with it. Okay. Not copying someone's CLI and pasting shit in the SSH and seeing if I can break it. Especially when I was drinking, I'd start a project like this and go, okay, Nathan, it's vanilla, snapshot it, go sing karaoke, come back the next day, and that's my starting point. And then I would get into the machine and I would start making changes. And if I didn't like the changes that were applicable or applied, I would roll back to the last snapshot. Windows has a function like that too. It's been around for years. So that's why I like snapshots. If I need a bookmark, I'm not really ready to really commit on my testing or experimenting. I'll take a snapshot and then I'll come back to it the next day, start working on things. If it doesn't work, then I'll just go back to it. So that's what a snapshot is. You can also do a replication. So you need two nodes, meaning two Proxmox virtual environment servers, but I could replicate what's over here on, and you'll see the host name is PVE2. Why? Because my brother has a Proxmox and it's named PVE1, okay? And PVE stands for Proxmox Virtual Environment. You can call it whatever you want to. I once worked for a guy, he wanted to name every damn server a musical instrument. I was like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. It was like tuba. What the hell's tuba? Oh, that's the domain controller. I'm like, you think I'm going to remember that? So, I mean, you know, flute. Ooh, what is flute? Okay. So people get creative. But so we already have one at Joel's house. We added this as PVE2. Okay. So that's so in reality, I could have Joel's PVE1 set up as another node and we could replicate between the two of them. Have we? No. Why? Don't want that. He has his island for production work and QA, and I have mine. And if mine gets turned off, it's not going to affect him. Don't care. This is ham radio shit. It's fun, right? That's why I don't mind showing you this because this doesn't matter. It's just for fun. So, and then you can do backups. You can actually back up the entire instance here and you know, remove it SSH or FTP or whatever your favorite protocol is, Apple File Service. I don't know. You can do it that way too. There are some cloud instances, but I've never really done this in the cloud. So here's one of the reasons why I do like Proxmox. When I click on console, it literally gives me a console right here, right now, inside the browser. And then if I just start typing away, I'm good to go. Literally, I'm just typing as I'm there. I've used Chrome, I've used Safari, I've used Firefox. Like every web browser just works. It's really, really cool. So this is basically a VNC console secured into machine. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, this is just by the way, this is their ISO for FreePBX. I originally did a Debian 12 install and it shit the bed. So I was like, okay, I'll just use theirs. So I'm like, how am I going to manage this phone system? So I clicked, I like Lubuntu, right? Another version of a slow version of Ubuntu, the same family. So this is what the administration looks like for that. So this was just a Linux machine that I built, and here's the free PBX system right here. So this is how I manage that VoIP system that we're starting to implement. So call this my utility PC, which is kind of cool. So now my brother says, hey, Nathan, you can open up the firewall ports, whatever you want. I'm like, well, I don't really need that. I've already got this port open for Proxmox. We're doing port forwarding, by the way, because he's on a single IP. But yeah, so I built a machine. I can get to it. Now I can get behind his firewall safely, securely, and I can make the changes that I need to. So let's talk about another virtual machine that I put in, and that's anyone that's ever seen this. You've heard of All-Star Link, right? By a show of hands, everyone's used All-Star Link, right? Because that's how we get on the 220 machine, because no one's got 220, or your damn radio overheats. I had that happen one time. So if you're ever wanting to know what does the backbone of All-Star Link, a node, look like? You're looking at it right here. It literally looks like DOS. So here's one of the nodes that I set up. And basically 515050, Petra was on it earlier in the week. It's a radioless hub, and this is what it looks like. It shows you node number, password, my call sign. There's no radio. You can set the duplex, half, or full. You can you can tune different things inside of it. But basically, this is hosted at my brother's place. I poked IA export 4569. Don't ask me how I remember that. But yeah, so this is basically the backbone for one of the All-Star Link 3.0, well, it's 3.5.5 now, but it was 3.0 when I originally started messing with it. So this is what All-Star Link looks like. So yeah, so it kind of gives you an idea what All-Star Link looks like, and this is literally hosted on the same Proxmox server. So it's kind of cool. It's got all the diagnostic menus in it. It'll show you the asterisk version that you're running, so on and so forth. So if you're kind of leery about running Linux, if you find an ISO like this, where you literally build the virtual machine and then grab the ISO, and I'll show you how you handle that in a second. It'll pop up like this. So let's talk about that. You've got local storage. One of the things that I love about Proxmox, unlike XCP, which is the competitor to this, the free version anyway, I had to create a network file service, or NFS storage, on a Windows box, or Samba, if you know what that is. I had to create an extra server where it would be the repository, and I would put my ISOs in that, and then it would go out and find it. So you mounted an external drive, basically. The great thing about this is if I go out and find an ISO that I want to download, so I'm just going to go to distrowatch.com. I don't normally drive this fast, do I? So there's Sparky Linux. Woof, woof, Sparky like a dog. And this Distro Watch is basically a website that shows you all about Linux, and you can track, the original numbers all the way to now. So if I just go here and I'm just going to download this, I'm going to look for an AMD 64, and hopefully they have an ISO without the zip. I see here. This is probably a bad example. Everything's zipped. I was just hoping to find the ISO by itself. Let me come back here. So you basically go find the operating system you want. Here's Fedora. Okay, that'll probably work. And I'm just going to come down here, and their package is RPM. Nothing wrong with that. RPM's not bad. So let me see if I can find it here, and I'm just going to download it. Supported releases F42. Can you just give me an ISO? I think of development releases. And everyone's got their code name, Rawhide and Branched and all this other silly stuff. All right, well, you know what? I'm just going to go to one I know. Ubuntu, everyone's heard of that, right? So here's Ubuntu. I'm just going to download the desktop. So here I'm going to click here, and see how. Say again? I think that was Kevin.
No, I was talking out loud. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right click, and I'm going to go copy link. I come right back into the Proxmox, and I paste the URL here. Nothing's being downloaded locally on the machine. I hit query. Well, see how it says thank you? That's not the right one. Let me see here. Okay. Oh man, I see it started here. Anyway, so basically you take the ISO that you want here, and you copy that link here, and it'll actually go out and download it. And then here are the ones that are available to us. So let's say I want to build a new machine. I right click here, I go create virtual environment. It's going to ask me, every virtual environment has an ID number. Okay, think of it as a VIN. This one's 103. It goes in chronological order. It starts at 100 and just keeps going. I'm just going to call it test box. I hit next. And it's going to ask me, once we download the ISO, what ISO do you want to use? I'm going to go Ubuntu. We'll act like we already built one. It automatically asks you what kind of kernel is it, or type. Is it Windows? Is it Linux? Is it something else? So we'll just do Linux there. Then I can allocate, if I had a massive GPU or graphics processor unit, a GPU card, I could actually tell it, hey, I want this graphics card with all this RAM and all that crap. But I'll just leave it default. You can select different machines, BIOS, but I usually keep it default. And then here's the disk. So it's got this SCSI drive attached to it. which is the larger pool at 4 TB, and I'm just going to give it 20 gigs of space. You hit next, and this is where I define how many sockets are available on the processor and how many cores. I'll just leave it 1-to-1 right now. And then this is where you determine how much RAM you want to use. If I've got, obviously I can see here, I have 124. I'm only using about 15, so I'll just leave it at 2. And then you can set up your network connection. Do you want a bridged connection where it basically takes the one Ethernet and allows you to create another branch off of it? Or do you want, there are other options in here. No, there's not. Okay. So it's just bridge. You can go no network device. I built a machine using pfSense, a firewall application, and I had I think the other server I built had 4 in there, but this one doesn't. So then I just hit confirm. It says, hey, here are your values. Would you like to start it when it's been created? I'll hit yes, and then I'll hit finish. You'll see on the far left, it's not green yet. It's about to come up. It built the machine, and now I can literally, this is the machine that we're doing right now. And it's going to pop up. And the reason why I use Ubuntu is because it's low resources, and Debian package management is it's okay. It's not the best. I'm a Slackware guy myself. I'm used to compiling everything, but it seems like everything ham radio is on Debian, so that's what we have to have. So yeah, there you go. So I can either try it or I can install it. In this case, I'll just try it. If you've ever used Nothix, that's what this does as well. And here we are. I've got literally a guest operating on the hypervisor and type 2, right? And I can come in, go to internet, I could go Firefox, and I could do whatever I wanted to. So this was a machine that literally I just built right now, and it's working. So that kind of gives you an idea of what Proxmox is and how it works. And those are the extreme basics. Nothing too hard about it. Works pretty well, and it's free. You just have to have the hardware to support multiple machines. So when I decided to bring back All-Star Link, I was like, I'll build it on this. Give it a static IP address and go from there. And then I can handle the what we call PAT, port address translation. I don't always use the same port internally as I do externally for security reasons. So good luck getting to port 22 on this machine. Not going to work. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. So I pick random ports and make things work. So, and then let's say I just want to shut this puppy down. I can click here and I can literally tell it to reset. So what they call ACPI on a traditional, remember Windows 90, yeah, I guess it was 95. You go start, shut down, and it would say, it's safe to turn off your computer now. That was before we had ACPI, right? So, but now we can actually send commands to the MOBO, the motherboard, and say, hey, turn yourself off. We're tired of you. Some of you might be thinking about me right now that way. But so I hit shut down. It's going to say, are you sure? And then I can just shut it down and it goes bye-bye. It'll go from a green status to gray, and it just shuts itself down. So what I try to do is when I name a virtual environment, this is also for my brother since it's on his internal network, I list the friendly name, whatever it's running, plus if it has a static IP, I put a dash behind it because he gave me a small segment on his internal network. And so this is telling me, hey, this was a live CD, live ISO. If I just hit this, it'll finally, and now it's finally shut down. So if I want to delete it, I just come up here to more. Make sure you're on the right machine, by the way, because you might be self-destructive. You hit purge, you hit destroy, and then as a confirmation, you got to be a real idiot to mess this up. It asks you for the volume ID, which is 103. I hit remove, it's going to remove itself, and I'm back to where I started. So that's Proxmox in its entirety. That's how it works. It's one of the ones that I really enjoyed working with, and I've kind of stuck with it. But it seems to work really well for what I'm doing. Everything's hobby related. So, any questions by the group or anyone have experience that you can share?
Yeah, I run a commercial version of VMware ESXi, and they've recently VMware was bought out by Broadcom. So if you sign up to Broadcom's support site with just your generic ID, you'll actually be able to get access to the VMware Workstation product, which is now free. It used to be hundreds of dollars. It was industry leader, and I use it quite a bit. So for a number of different applications, we use ESXi on about 35 physical boxes, and I run about 333 VMs off that with full automation and so forth. So if folks are interested in getting um, a little more in depth on a V2 for clustering setups. This can all be done using free licensing at home. ESXi is free and Workstation's free. So, how do you determine which one you want? It all depends upon what you want to put it on. So, like if you have a bare metal box at home, a desktop or something like that, that isn't directly connected to the internet, then probably ESXi. If you have a laptop that you need to have, like let's say, your host operating system, where you have your email and that's where you go do your banking, and then you have VMware Workstation. That's where you load up your disposable Windows operating system for all your Bofang firmware update, right? All that software all goes in there. The nice thing is the separation. So if something pops in that garbage VM, like you said, you can roll back from a snapshot, or you can just wipe it out and start from scratch. So there's a lot of great things that can be done with that locally. So without even having to get into large enterprises, but large enterprises are fun. It used to be like you said, something goes pop in the middle of the night, and you got to run down and push a power button. Don't have to do that anymore because all my machines are virtualized. So
Yeah, and a lot of companies have gone that way. We're tired as engineers at BBM. We're tired of looking at old shit that's end of life. And you call the manufacturer and they laugh in your face. They're like, "What version number you on?" Wow. So, when you can go toward a virtualized environment, you can definitely sleep better at night.
oh yeah, and using the commercial stuff, ESXi and vCenter allows me to migrate it not just to other pieces of physical equipment in my shop, but also to put it on Azure, where we
Mhm.
have a business license. So that way, when things are finally out of the oven and ready for prod, I'll give it to someone else to manage. Get out of my call queue.
Yeah, it,
So
it it broke on my shift. Now it's your problem.
I worked fine in dev.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course containers. You mentioned that briefly with Proxmox being able to handle containers. Proxmox and VMware Workstation, Parallels, those are all applications. QEMU
Mhm.
for the Linux side, those are all the same kind of type 2 hypervisors. So it's once you understand one, it's very easy to find the correlation between these so that you can, the onboarding and training isn't so steep, but you just got to do the one. So,
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And it's not like you got to throw a lot of money at this. I made the mistake. We had those of you on Discord, Richard came over yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I can get his Balfane DM1701 working. And I'm like, oh shit, Windows 11 ARM. Yeah, they're not going to support that. So I have a Linux machine at work that's, on a separate network, and I have VirtualBox on that with Windows 10 Pro. So I was able to program as a radio. I just haven't given it to them yet. But Yeah, so it's you know, sometimes you buy new equipment, and you're like, oh, this is going to work great, and then you find out, well, that architecture is not supported yet. Yep.
Very true.
Yeah.
We
Eh,
bought two Z boxes last year
yeah.
and got rid of a dozen racks of AS400s
Wow.
in one mainframe with a backup mainframe at $4 million a pop
Dang.
for the Z box and $500,000 a year in maintenance. But
Oof.
one hard drive in a year got replaced.
Wow.
There's no cooling fans
Okay.
in these mainframes. They're all water cooled.
Mm-hmm.
Internal circulation, an internal low speed radiator. But some people don't want to pop 4 million to get rid of 24
Right.
rack mounts, you know?
Yeah, we're still
That's
using
the decision.
yeah, we're still using LTO tape for most of our iGuides. So like
Oh,
we have a robot and
we're
that's
out of
all it
tapes.
does.
We
Yeah.
don't, we're all, no more tapes.
Yeah.
Tapes
Yeah.
are gone.
Yeah.
Tapes are gone.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the terms high availability, redundant, I mean, all of these things matter when you when you promise uh a client, whoever the client is, doesn't matter, 100% uptime, you have to build it that way. And if you don't, then yeah, there's downtime. And let's face it, just because you have an A side doesn't mean the B works. I like to migrate to the B side for 30 days if I can. And then after that, I go back to the A side because, you know, if you have a backup device server and you never fell over to it and then you need to use it and it never works, well, then that's a false sense of reality. So,
well, I remember when VMware, you could get VMware for free,
yeah.
a 3.5-inch diskette.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you could run a multitude. I
Sure.
ran 4 different operating systems on one computer, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's great. Yeah, I mean I'm a Linux guy at work. Um, obviously I run Mac because that's what Stan likes here, and gotta have Windows. But when I bought the new ICOM D52 Plus, I was like, I hope this thing works in Windows 11 ARM, and sure enough, it does. But it's like you never know. You never know. Some of this architecture will not play nice. So, all right, any other questions? Mark, I know you have a question. And no, I don't live in my mother's basement.
Why do you need? I had a bad connection because I had too much open.
Yeah.
And now I have a good connection. So I may have missed your explanation. Why do you need 12 CPUs? Are you trying to run a space station?
Well, oh, why not? Because I can. I mean, good luck getting a machine. Good luck getting a machine with, you know, less than 6 cores. That's just how it is. So, I built that machine specifically for virtualization. Didn't care about GPU. I'm not doing any transcoding. I'm not doing anything gaming related. So, the machine I built,
That's what I was thinking.
the one that you saw with those specs, was pure. I mean, people look at me and go 128 gigs of RAM. Why? I'm like, well, I've got 3 machines. First of all, it's got to run the Proxmox, right? It's type 2. So it has a host operating system that eats up 8 gigs there. And then I've got 16 gigs that I'm already using, and you can do the math. So, and let's face it, running a VoIP server doesn't require a lot of throughput or heavy lifting. Now, I load it down with 200 users, different story, but it's my brother, Kevin, and me. And neither Kevin and Joel are on it yet. So it's not gonna weigh it down. But yeah, so when I buy something, I ask myself, will I buy something with more overhead than what I need? Because chances are I'll probably end up using it. So that's my train of thought.
You wouldn't happen to be running some big site on the dark web, would you?
Oh no. No, I don't participate in that. Sorry.
But Bob. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Why we have you, Mark? Oh, he's frozen. He's frozen. Yeah, that's why you buy a machine with more than what you need. All right. Any other questions? Gregory, you're here. Gregory.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, you can. Okay.
you're
Hi.
here.
Yeah. I was outside, came in
Yeah.
just for this. No,
Yeah.
I didn't just for this. I came in to do something else, and then I saw your email, and I said, oh, I should see if they're still doing it. See if this even works on my computer, and it does.
Yeah.
I'm on the weird camera, the one that zooms in on me.
Nice. Well, don't
Yeah.
get any closer. We don't want to see you that tight.
Yeah, see, it does that automatically. It's really a weird camera.
Oh
Like,
no.
if I get too close,
man.
it goes backwards. See, it brings me backwards.
Yeah, that and your
Wow.
Martian green.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, anyway, that's the camera. I use this in divorce court. That's why it says Pro SE.
Oh.
But I haven't been in divorce court for a long time. So, and I see my white balance is off too. It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
weird.
okay.
Let's see if I can fix that.
You don't work in TV anymore, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
sure. My virtual
Plus, when
background
you get that ugly, it's all downhill.
profile. You mute my audio. Stop video. Yeah, I don't see a spot here to fix the white balance. Uh-oh. Oh, that's something else.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments about virtualization? Man, this one went well. I can't believe it's been an hour. Well, once again, thank you everyone for being here. What did I say? I just pulled these topics up. We could do yeah, I'm open to anything. If you want to present, yeah, it doesn't have to be long, half hour. But yeah, I'll come up with a new topic probably on Saturday and propagate that on Sunday or Monday. But yeah, I'm just trying to bring some new technology that most of us have probably never seen or experienced yet. And you know, it's always something to learn as far as the IT side of things. So excellent.
Okie doke.
All right, I will wrap it up. Thank you everyone
Talk
for
to you
being
later.
here. It's good to see you.
See ya.
Okay, thanks for having us.
You bet.